So Buddhism and peace. When you think about it, there probably isn't a single country in Buddhist Asia that doesn't have an army. And the most shocking image that I've seen of an army at work in a Buddhist country in the last few years would be that of Burma. Images on the news of soldiers raising their guns, threatening to fire on a street full of monks peacefully protesting against the military dictatorship in that country. And as somebody pointed out, that country has a tradition whereby most young men take temporary ordination as monks. So virtually all those soldiers would know what it was like to have been a monk, and they would find it profoundly shocking to find themselves required to raise their guns against these peacefully unarmed people. And Aung San Suu Kyi, who is the Buddhist and democratically elected leader of the opposition in that country, who spent many years under house arrest, said recently in the Reith Lectures on the BBC that she herself was a pacifist, but that she based her belief in pacifism not on morals. So she distinguished herself strongly from Martin Luther King and Gandhi in that her principled her commitment to non-violence is based solely on practical and political beliefs, that she wishes to change her country's tradition or habit of looking for regime change through violent means. She simply wants to change a habit, a bit like we do in meditation. We're bringing awareness and principled commitment to changing our mental habits. And recently I went to a government reception in Whitehall, and the reception was to celebrate the contribution of Buddhists to British public life. And really probably the only interesting thing about that evening was meeting a number of military service women and men from the Army and Royal Air Force, I think, who were Buddhists. And nobody actually knew how many Buddhists there were in the British Armed Services until a few years ago when they appointed a military chaplain. This is a civil appointment. The government appointed a Buddhist military chaplain. And all these Buddhists came out of the woodwork, and not all of them were Nepalese Gurkhas. A lot of them are white people who've become Buddhists. And talking to one or two of these people, I was extremely impressed with their principles, their ethical commitment to their jobs. And one that really got me thinking was a man who had previously been responsible as a soldier for loading bombs onto planes, who began to realise as his practice deepened that he couldn't do this anymore ethically. And so he volunteered for the far more dangerous job of becoming a bomb disposal expert. That almost had me in tears as I realised what he had done, what his ethics had driven him to, that he now realised it was more ethical for him to walk alone across a minefield or towards unexploded bombs. With great mindfulness, great metta, focus, utter commitment, putting his life in great danger for other people because of his Buddhist practice. He really got me thinking, because up until then I'd assumed that really it was probably really incompatible with Buddhism to be in the army. Probably a lot of us think like that, but it really isn't black and white.